Joining me now, Madeleine Westall, who's standing in Ayre and Michael, and it's been great to get you here because it's been quite a trek because you don't drive. I know.
No, it's an achievement.
You found us. Anyway, interesting. So because you live up north, but you work down south and that sort of thing. What's made you stand? I mean, obviously it's the first time for you.
I've just been elected as a commissioner for Les Ayres, and there are certain things that are coming to the fore. Potential for an all-island rate and lack of investment in the north of the island, that I thought these problems that we have, which are roads and lack of affordable housing, lack of a transport, and they all need bringing together to put together with the climate crisis that we have.
You say lack of investment. You got, I mean, was the Treasury Minister up there? You thought he hasn't done his piece? You don't think that for the North?
I think he's been an excellent Treasury Minister during COVID. However, there are, we have very rural communities, and our lack of a bus service is really means we don't have access to a normal modern society for many people. You can't come into Douglas for an evening, you can't get back home again. Again, we've got housing issues in the north that really do need attending to rather urgently out at Derby and so on. We don't need refurbishment, we need them rebuilding suitable local authority homes for our low to middle income earners so that they have a secure, decent 21st century home to raise their families in. And those children need to be able to get into Ramsey, get into Douglas. They also need broadband. We're going to be the last place on the island again to get superfast broadband, not due until the end of 2024.
Oh, well, I thought 2022. Is that late? But yeah. Rural areas, I thought, had this money from the government, the broadband strategy. But
listen,
this is what you've been told.
Listen,
is it everywhere or just some places? I mean, yeah.
No. It's 50% of the island, but we're not that 50% of the island that's already received it.
But back to transport, though, it's a big issue for you, and it has come up from various people, hasn't it?
It's not just a big issue for me. I'm really quite lucky in that if I want to, not on a working day, but I can get on my bike and I can cycle into Ramsey. But simply the lack of any regular bus service, even for workers going in from Derby, for instance, at 7 o'clock in the morning, that bus is not a regular service because it's a flexi service on a non-school day. Nobody that I know works so that they don't go to work on a non-school day. Right. It's just there is very, very little service. And we know that we lost our bus service so that they could increase the frequency in the south of the island into Douglas. That's great, but please don't do it at the expense of leaving the rural north without connectivity. That's really poor. And
because you don't drive, you haven't been obviously having no chance of getting around all the constituents, have you? I mean, unless you're doing a lot of walking or cycling.
Well, even if you do non-stop walking and cycling, since declarations were accepted on the 25th of August, it's a physical impossibility. So
how are you communicating?
Well, what I've tried to do is I'll go out and talk to people where people would naturally gather. Mm-hmm. So whether it's the pubs or the cafes, and I've gone round the farmers. And just cycle around, and if you hear there's a farmer around, and just go, hi. Okay,
so what other things are you hearing then from people on the doorstep?
We're concerned about housing in the north because it's...
Well, affordable housing as usual. Everyone's saying that, right? So,
well, there's affordable housing that there are one or two applications in for building in Les Ayres, for instance, at Milltown, which nobody understands why...
These are not first-time buyers' houses. These are bigger houses.
This is just a development of 166 homes. Right. I think by the government they have to have some of those as affordable. Yeah. But what we think is that these shouldn't be built until we have the results of the most recent census. Until that census comes out, we want to know what homes we have, how many are empty, and how many are needed, because if the homes are needed in Douglas, it's no point building them in Lozère. So we need to build the right type of home in the right place. And in the north, there's many groups. It's not just about first-time buyers. We need good quality family homes. And for our low to middle income earners, which include our key workers, those who work in care homes, those who are working, often for government as well, they should be able to have a decent family home, 3-bedroom home with a garden. They can raise their children, and they can either rent it or rent to buy it. But that's just not available. And we have other people who are the elderly, who've always lived out in the countryside, and they do not want to downsize and have to move into towns. It's a very different mindset if you're used to living in the countryside. And we want to have little local developments in Solby and Kirk Michael and so on, so that the people who are our constituents can stay in the area.
Teacher, right, as such? I mean, that's your day job at the minute. And so where do you fit in if you're in government? Would be the obvious. Would you like to go into education?
Not particularly, and I wouldn't be thinking about that at the moment. Right. Education, fine, but I would really like to see a new minister created for planning and housing, because those two go inextricably together, and housing is an integral part of getting that 20 to 29 demographic, which has had a big dip, and getting young people to return to the island and stay. So job creation is needed though, surely, for that, isn't it? It's not to get those jobs. It's multifaceted, but basically we have to face the fact that we are a remote island. And if I remember back to 1986, when I first came to the island, the one thing that swung it for me to accept the post was I was given a red-eye ticket at the end of every half term. I could book my flight, and it was paid for as part of my contract. We should be offering these sorts of incentives. The other thing I'd like to see is us reconsider offering student loans. If we offer student loans, then the onus is on the students to pay that back. I've had 3 children at university at the same time. Impossible to do on a single salary. But if it was on student loan system, as they have elsewhere, it relieves the pressure on the one parent, or if you're low to middle income earner. That pressure to provide money for one child to go to university, let alone 2 at the same time, is huge. So I would very much like the government to also think about increasing the variety of courses at the Isle of Man College, tertiary courses, degree level courses, in the areas where we have skill shortages. Because if we can prevent some students from going off island, and they can take their degree at the university college, and they have jobs, and they also have a decent home or an apartment. Okay. It sounds like it should be in education, though. I mean, would you want to be inside government, or would you want to be backbenching? No, well, being a backbencher, you try and hold the government to account, but being realistic, if you want to change things, you've got to change it from the inside. And I would hope that the 2 candidates who are elected in Ayre and Michael will both be pushing to change things from within. And you'd have to make this a full-time job, clearly, right? I mean, you wouldn't be doing some teaching. It's nothing new for me, is it? You're working from 7 in the morning till 10 at night. You came with a bag of books, I noticed today for the interview. Yeah. Saturday morning school, folks. Who would you like to be the Chief Minister? Oh, Mr. Cannon. Oh, no, that's interesting. That's the area you're standing in. So you're basically saying, you can have one of the seats, I want the other one, basically. I mean, that's interesting. It's purely from the point of view of what's best for the constituency, because we really do need investment in Ayre and Michael. Whether we're talking, he's the one that holds the money, right? So he's not giving you enough. You're just saying it's not that simple, is it? No. We all know DOI. We need rural constituencies, potholes, lack of bus service. It's not just one man who can solve all that with a magic wand. But I do realise that if Mr. Cannon were the next Chief Minister, Ayre and Michael, 1/3 of the island would perhaps get a little bit more investment than it's had in the past, and we would get some decent housing, some decent roads, a decent bus service, all those things that other towns take for granted. And there is the looming possibility of an all-island rate.